So this is the starting for 3 meals this week. I'm getting ready to roast my chickens. They're basically sitting on a bed of carrots and onions, and then I stuff them with thyme and rosemary and a lemon wedge, and then generously salt and peppered, and also some butter on the outside. Now, if you're going to roast a chicken, you might as well roast two. They're very versatile, and you can do so much with it, and it's just as easy to do one as you can do two. So in this particular case, I learned a new method that I absolutely adore. And it's actually roasting it in a pot. You roast it at a lower temperature. It's at 350, and so I'll put the lid on for about an hour. And then after an hour, I'll take the lid off, and then I'll wait until it gets crispy on the outside, which is about 50 minutes or so. It makes the juiciest, tenderest chicken I've ever had. And it's my go-to way of making it now. Then afterwards, when I'm done with this, I'll end up making a gravy or a stock from the leftovers in the pan. And like I said, I'll make this into 3 different meals. So I will check back later. So here's the chickens when I took them out. They are so juicy and so tender that part of the legs came off. Was hard to keep together because it is so juicy. It really is. After trying this the first time, I was really skeptical. Lord knows I'm making up words now. I didn't expect it to work. I was used to just roasting my turkeys in a flat pan and doing it that way. Part of the issue is, you're right, it probably doesn't brown nearly as much, but we're going to pull the skins off anyway when I go to shred all this chicken up. So that's not such a big deal. Now, one of the keys, and this is the same thing with turkeys, is letting this rest a whole lot. So I'm going to tent this with tin foil, and then probably let it rest at least an hour before I start digging into this and shredding all the meat that's on here, which is always the fun, messy part of the process. I'm still working on my sauce here. Like I said, this is going to reduce by half, and then I'll add a few other things, and in the end, I'll strain it. So here are those beautiful drippings I was talking about. What'll happen overnight is that the fat's going to rise to the top, and you can already see it starting to separate now. It's going to create this lovely little layer of fat, hardened fat, and underneath it, it's going to have this kind of jelly-like substance. And when I go to make my gravy, because we're going to have one of my husband's favorites, cream chicken with biscuits, kind of like chicken a la king, actually. I'll use those drippings, that fat from the top, instead of butter or oil to make the gravy. And then the bottom jelly part will actually add to some of the liquids. It is phenomenal. I wish you could smell it. It's going to impart all the flavors from the chicken that's in there. It'll bring it even better flavor. So soon I'll be hitting the old chicken to try and chop it up and get it ready and shredded for meals later in the week. So you just saw me shred up all that chicken. If you let it sit long enough, it is much easier when it's cool to be able to do it with your fingers, because you can work your way through all those little bones, all the fat, everything that's kind of hanging on to it. It didn't take me long to do it either. It takes maybe 10 minutes to do that. If this was a time when we'd be having that for dinner, I would have only carved half of it, enough for a meal for both my husband and I would have done a number of sides, and the rest of it would have been put up. It took me a lot of years to feel confident to do this particular thing. I don't like my hands dirty, so I hated doing the chicken. But now, I absolutely can't imagine doing it any other way. It just, there's no way I could do it any other way. It tastes too good. The other thing I forgot to mention is I get my chickens from the meat market. We started trying to do local a while ago. So I go to a meat market, I go to the produce market, I go to a specialty shop for some other things. I will say I do go to Trader Joe's. I do love Trader Joe's, but normally it's not for, it's usually just for small staples that I might get there. They have really good prices on nuts and things like that. So this particular chicken, I made it to the white meat is one side and the dark meat's on another side. This is probably going to turn into 3, maybe 4 meals, and you'll see those as the week goes on. basically chicken noodle casserole as opposed to tuna casserole. It's my exact same recipe, except for when I make tuna casserole, I use a tuna steak instead of the fresh chicken. So this is that chicken you saw earlier today that I've turned into another meal. I sauteed onions and mushrooms and carrots and sweet potatoes, and then made a bechamel sauce to mix in with it. I use capitelli noodles, I think. I don't know what I used, whatever I had in the house, basically. And then on the top is the fresh breadcrumbs that I made earlier today, and mixed it with some Gruyere. I also threw some Gruyere in the bechamel sauce as well. This is basically going to bake for at 350 for probably an hour or so. It's going to get brown and bubbly at the top. It's basically fully cooked. There's everything's fully cooked in it. It just want to get it brown and bubbly and oh so ooey gooiness. So this is meal number 1 with that roasted chicken that I made earlier. So what you don't realize about my kitchen is that it's really, really small. And not only that, I don't have a dishwasher. So every time on a day like today when I did a lot of cooking, every meal I make, everything has to be washed. The whole kitchen gets re-cleaned each time, and they basically just pile up here. So cooking is quite an adventure in this house. I think I've done dishes 4 times today. I made a lot of meals though, so that's probably the reason why. So yeah, wish I had a bigger kitchen. And for all those people who talk about their drawers, these are the kind of drawers I have. Yeah, look at that drawer. There's next to nothing you can do with that. Then I have these even thinner drawers, and then I have these big bread type drawers. So I do not have an ideal kitchen at all for the kind of cooking that I do, but I managed to get a lot of cooking done in this kitchen. So it's a pretty old home. The tiles, of course, only look good now when they're wet, but that's okay. So yes, thanks for coming along. Here's the finished product. Oh my word. I wish we had smell-o-vision because this smells so good. I cannot wait to dig into it. It's going to be a little hot right now, but give it about 5 minutes or so. Its juice is going to come up again. This will end up making dinner. My husband's at work tonight, so when he gets home, he'll have a serving. I'll have a serving for dinner tonight. And this should get 2 lunches for my husband, for Kevin, and then 1 serving for me. So pretty good terms. I'm done cooking for the day, so I'll see you next time. So this is meal 2 of that roasted chicken that I made. This is a pappardelle pasta with bacon, sun-dried tomatoes, cream, white wine, garlic, little chicken stock in there. It is absolutely favorite. This is actually better the next day. I actually have put both my husband's lunch up and my lunch up for tomorrow. Well, actually, he has a couple other leftovers before he'll get to this one, but it's actually better the second day than it is the first day. It is absolutely phenomenal meal. I normally make my own pasta for most of the times, but lately I just haven't had the time. So I get fresh pasta from one of the local specialty shops here, and it's pretty tasty. And then I've just paired it with a really simple red wine vinaigrette salad. It has a spring mix in it, tomatoes, some cheese, and artichoke hearts. This is a fairly simple meal to make. It's one of those nights I can make it on a weeknight without being an issue. It's really, really fast and really, really tasty. So this is what's for dinner tonight. Hi all. So tonight we're having cream chicken for dinner. And you might have remembered that when I made that chicken, when I roasted those chickens, I cooked down the drippings, and it creates this. Side view. I don't know that you can see it real well. But basically, that juice separated, and on top is this layer of fat. And that layer of fat's going to act as when you're making a gravy, you need a fat of some sort. Most of the time people use butter when they're doing that. And of course it's like a 2 to 1 ratio when you're making gravy. So I will use that layer of fat on top as the fat part for my gravy. And then on the bottom, I will use that as part of my liquid. I can't explain it. It's almost a gel at this particular point, but it'll cook down really nicely. So yes, and we're also having biscuits tonight. So these are the biscuits. They are Bakewell cream biscuits. I'll link the recipe below. It's from King Arthur flour. These are the best biscuits. Not only that, they freeze beautifully. They're just fabulous. I can't say enough about them. It makes a huge batch of them as well. I'm actually just cooking a few right now because Kevin's working late, so I will cook more for him right before he comes home. The other interesting thing about these particular biscuits is that you cook them at a very high temperature. You cook them at 475 for 5 minutes, and then you turn the oven off and then let them cook another 5 to 10 minutes. The same thing holds true when you freeze these. I'm actually going to bake these up, put these on a sheet pan, cook some for when Kevin gets home for his meal, and then I'll be able to put some in the freezer. They make great sandwiches, like biscuit sandwiches. They're really, really good. And then you can only take out 2 or 3 if you want them. It's very nice. This looks like a lot, but it's really not. Some of them are really little, and those are just, you can have a little honey butter on them because they're so good. Here's the chicken. It's looking really good. I added peas to this, salt and pepper, which you missed. And I'll probably add a little garlic powder to it. I haven't decided yet. I haven't tried it in a while. I usually like to use fresh peas in this, but I'm having a hard time right now getting fresh peas. It is spring, so it is time for them, but when they get in the market, they're gone as fast as they come. So I just chose frozen peas here. So yes. Look at those glorious biscuits. I mean, fluffy, layery, absolutely yummy goodness. That is, and that you saw, it took no time to make these. They are absolutely easy. The other thing that I would say about them is it calls for pastry flour. And the first time I made them, I didn't use pastry flour. I used just regular old all-purpose, and the pastry flour made a difference. So yes, that and that is going to equal yummy goodness. So here's the finished product. Chicken and biscuits. It is, I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I need smell-o-vision because it smells absolutely phenomenal. This makes excellent leftovers as well. It is my husband's probably top 5 favorite foods that I make. It's basically just chicken a la king, but this was meal number 3 from that chicken, and there was enough chicken that I put up that we're going to have meal number 4 out of that chicken as well. So yes, thank you for coming along. Bon appetit.